Hello again, friends, and welcome to another segment here on Doc G's Wine and Spirits Review. My topic today is going to be a very simple one. It's a continuation of the feature that I wanted to share with you throughout the year on different wine grapes that I consider to be kind of off the beaten path. I've called them esoteric, niche, whatever word you want to use. These are generally wines that are not in your top 10 or 15, maybe even 20 of world production. And if you remember, I started the year out by sharing with you a white one, and off months we'll do a red one. And now we're on to the third month of the year, so we are now back to another white wine grape that is not as esoteric as the first one. If you remember, the first one I did was a grape that hailed from Hungary called Ferment. And I talked all about that. You can go back and review that if you'd like. But today's grape is going to be Chenin Blanc. And Chenin Blanc has a long storied history as a grape, but it is not one of the more prolific grapes on the planet, quite frankly. But when you find a great Chenin Blanc, it is fantastic. So, as you know, if I can find any wine in the sparkling form, I will. And as it happens, the Chenin Blanc grape is used in a lot of great sparkling, and I'm going to share one of those with you now to start our segment. As soon as I can free it from the bottle. So there you have it. A little pour for you. I'm going to take a sip and welcome you, and then we will actually begin our presentation today by talking about this very wine. Cheers and welcome to Chenin Blanc. That is amazing. So let me kind of dive in, and we'll kind of meander through the topic a little bit. This Chenin Blanc by Olema is technically what is called a Crémant de Loire. And as I proceed through our presentation today, you'll understand why the Loire Valley is very important in the history and in the current production of Chenin Blanc. So what they do, and we'll kind of walk through this through the wines that I'm going to show you and sample with you. I have a number of them over here behind me, which I'll talk about to kind of walk us through the whole Chenin Blanc episode here. So this Chenin Blanc is not a pure Chenin Blanc. You rarely find Crémant de Loire that is 100% sparkling Chenin Blanc. This one and others that I've had, because this is kind of one of my favorite sparkling combinations, although confessed, I do certainly have many, but this is one of those that's in the top three. It's called a Crémant de Loire, and it is usually some combination of Chardonnay and Chenin Blanc. And in this case, the combination is right down the middle. It's 50% Chardonnay, 50% Chenin Blanc, and I can tell you, most sparklings don't really throw off an aroma. We'll do that when we do the stilled version of Chenin Blanc, but this is bone dry, has a wonderful palate, kind of mild, but you get a little pear on it, and that's going to be the key flavor profile when we talk about Chenin Blanc. You're always going to find a lot of pear in Chenin Blanc. So let's talk about this wonderful grape. Again, not in the top echelon in terms of volume of production on the planet, but its origin is from France. It dates back basically to the 9th century, named after a place called Mont Chenin, or Mount Chenin, if you want to say it in English, and it has evolved and grown and traveled around the world to different regions. The grape is also known as Vouvray, which I'm going to show you one of those. That's a region in the Loire Valley where it's grown in France. It's also known as Steen in South Africa, which I'm going to hit on as we walk through this presentation. It's also grown in Argentina, and it is actually grown here in the U.S., predominantly in California. But lo and behold, one of my favorite winemakers in the Finger Lakes has gone out and experimented and planted some Chenin Blanc vines, and I have a Finger Lakes Chenin Blanc here for you as well. So with all of that, let's dive in to some other miscellaneous facts about Chenin Blanc. So I just reviewed with you the 4 places on the planet where it's grown, and in terms of rank, it's South Africa. Even though it's of French origin, the South Africans have done a fantastic job calling the grape Steen, S-T-E-E-N, and they are the #1 ranked producer of Chenin Blanc on the planet. Behind them is France, behind them is Argentina, and then finally the different places in the United States where this is grown. I'm sure there might be micro amounts grown in some of the other wine regions around the world, potentially in Australia, perhaps as I showed you in New York. So, but California is the main area in the country, in the United States anyway, where Chenin Blanc thrives. And there are some excellent Chenin Blancs coming out of California, which we're gonna taste one. I'm not gonna open all of them, but I promise I'll taste one with you. So what can you expect from the Chenin Blanc grape when you actually come across it? Well, it's known for 2 things in my opinion. Its high level of acidity. It's almost tart and bracing. If you love that kind of feel, it really doesn't compare to any. It's got its own profile. But the flavors that you'll get, and it's usually kind of like this, a pale gold, if you can kind of see that in the light there in the glass. You're going to get a lot of pear. You're going to get some honeysuckle. You're going to even get a little apple. And in this one especially because it's paired with Chardonnay, which is apples like quintessential Chardonnay profile. So, and you may get some ginger and some other things. It's got a nice fruitiness. You'll always get nice fruit on it, even in light versions. It's very light bodied, but don't be put off by that. If your palate is sharp, you'll pick up the flavors in it. Its sweetness. Now, one of the things about the Chenin Blanc grape is depending on, especially in France, you can let this grape sweeten, and they actually have semi-sec, which is semi-dry, which means literally kind of sweet, Vouvray. And the semi-sec Vouvray come across as sweet. They've got an apricot, a honey. They're more actually of a dessert wine, or could be a food wine depending on what you decide to pair it with. The acidity is over the top. This is one of the most acidic white wines that you may ever come across. And if you like high acid, it's kind of like a Riesling, which has that bracing acidity, an Albarino, which does that. But this is kind of an acid profile unto itself, and it's a good one. And its alcohol content, it's 12, 13% if you're going to have a dry version, which is like most of your basic white dry wines. So that is Chenin Blanc. So the food pairings that you would put with Chenin Blanc are, be quite honest with you, before I decided to do this, or before I set up doing this presentation, we had a homemade chicken soup that my wife put together with a little corn in it, some pasta, and it was fantastic. And one of the great pairings with Chenin Blanc is chicken, turkey, Asian food, salty food, aperitif type food. They even talk about potato chips being a quintessential pairing for Chenin Blanc because of its bracing acidity. And you need those kind of foods that have a little bit of umami in them to help that counteract that flavor and cause a beautiful contrast when you're having some of it. The pear on this is opening up unbelievably. If you're a fan of pears, and I'm not talking sweet pear, but imagine a pear minus its sugar, and you're just getting the fruitiness of the pear, like the aroma of a pear that you smell. That's what this wine is, with a nice bracing acidity. It's not going to like burn your mouth out. I'm not talking that. But it is a wonderful, wonderful sipper. So when you serve Chenin Blanc, you generally want to keep it as cold as possible, a little bit more than other white wines because of its acidic content. That really does help with it. So that kind of gives you the general overview. I'll post a little bit about the grape in depth for those of you that want to devour all kinds of knowledge. I'll put a little post on there and you can read through it. Look up the Chenin Blanc grape on your own if you would like. Just Google Chenin Blanc and you'll find out everything that you need to know. I try to make it user friendly for you by posting other information other than what I'm just talking about now. So there you have it. Welcome to Chenin Blanc. It is a wonderful grape and one that I highly recommend that you find, whether it be from South Africa, California, France, or whatever. I know it's I don't say readily available, but again, because it's in the top 15 to 20. So that's not, you're not going to find as much Chardonnay, like the Chardonnay and Pinot Grigio and Sauvignon Blanc. It's not in that class. It's down the tier, but it doesn't mean it's bad grape. It doesn't mean it's one you shouldn't try. It's an esoteric. Remember, that means scarce. It's not one that you're going to see a lot of. If you're really interested in it, you kind of have to be a wine geek like me, and you got to go find it. So with that said, I'm going to put the sparkling aside. Well, not just yet. One more sip to keep the throat lubricated. Oh, cheers. So this one I got on wine.com. This is Olema Cremant de Loire. I got a couple bottles because I knew I would like it. And the lovely thing I like about wines from France, they don't tell you anything on the back of the label. You're supposed to know. So now, what I'd like to do is share with you a couple Sauvignon, or excuse me, I'm going to start with the one from France because this is the one wine that actually I found a number of years ago that turned me on to the whole idea of Chenin Blanc. And you notice on here, it has the word Vouvray. That's a region, an area in the Loire Valley in France that is absolutely the ground zero in France for the greatest Chenin Blancs that you can find. So let me, as if you remember, I walked you through the process of reading the label. This is a 2022 and it says sec. For those of you that understand a little French, that means dry. So this one has a 13% alcohol by volume. And when you see that, it's not a sweet wine. You got to get under 11, 10 before it starts to have a little bit more residual sugar in it. So this is vin biologique, which means it's a biodynamic grown. They observe all those good practices. This is a 2022. It's from Cuvée Silex, which is a known name, from Vigneaux Chevreau. And I'm not opening this one. It's my last one. It's hard to find. But I have had numerous bottles of this, starting probably with the 2017 vintage. This is a 2022. It can age a little bit, but it's getting there, so I'm going to have to drink this one soon. But there's your version. This is definitely from the Loire Valley. If you get to see this, for you PA friends, it's available in PA. For you others, you're going to have to maybe go on wine.com and hope that you can find it. It usually runs for, this one was a $23 bottle. Vouvrays and Chenin Blancs are not at your lower end. Usually with these esoteric wines, because they're a little bit more scarce, the price tends to go up just a little bit when you find them. So let me set that one out of the way. And let me go then to California. I have one here. This is the one we had with dinner, and this is by a wine company. This is only available online. You're not going to find this anywhere. And I just had this, I have another glass here. I just had this one with dinner. And it paired excellently with a chicken soup. So now this is the still version. You notice that color, remember? We said like a pale amber. And it is absolutely very light on the nose. Tastes like a pear. If you have a smart palate, it tastes like a pear. Now I did take some time to go onto the website and download their stat sheet. So this one has a residual sugar of only 2.3 grams per liter. That's not a sweet wine. It goes for about $30 a bottle. And the fact that the artist put a pear on the bottle, if you can see that very closely, that's kind of an indication of what this wine actually tastes like. But it's got a high acid, it's got a lovely, light, lovely nosed. A little bit of yeast was put in it. And it's got a nice mouthfeel. It seems light, but it's not. And even though they recommended pouring it cold, I'm always a big fan of letting my white wines warm up, because they tend to, just like red wines, they evolve in the glass and they become something that you didn't have when you poured it. And that's something, unless you let it get too warm, but if you let it just get to a little bit of room temperature, it opens up the aromas, makes the wine go down so much better in my opinion. Makes the wine pair so much better, no pun intended. Makes the wine pair so much better with whatever you might be having with it. So I want to finish up our presentation with one more from California. This one's from Dry Creek, and I had the pleasure of visiting this winery. Hard to believe, it's 17 years ago already, back in 2009. But you can get Dry Creek wines pretty readily. They do distribute. This is a 2023 Clarksburg. Clarksburg seems to be, these are both from Clarksburg, different winemakers. Clarksburg seems to be, that's in Sonoma County, seems to be ground zero for a good Chenin Blanc in the United States, especially in California. So let me read a little bit about this. This is made in a dry style. It is done in stainless steel. Sees no oak aging to preserve the fresh tropical fruit aromas and flavors. So they have been doing this wine for over 30 years. So Chenin Blanc has been very popular. This might be one of the first Chenin Blancs I found from California. I know I've had this one before, and this one's 12.5% alcohol by volume. So let me set that one aside. And finally, to close out our presentation, I came across a Chenin Blanc, surprisingly, first one I've ever found in New York State, in the Finger Lakes, by this German-trained winery, Weiss Winery, on Keuka Lake. I tried it, I sampled it. I only have one bottle. I'm actually going back to the Finger Lakes soon, kind of report to you from there. I'm probably going to wind up buying some more of this because it just blew me away. Couldn't believe it. So there you have it. You have Chenin Blanc from France, from the US, California, and even some from New York State. I apologize, I don't happen to have any on hand from where it's produced the most, but I can tell you that when you find a South African Chenin Blanc, it's probably going to be more, a little bit less expensive because they produce a lot of it. 50% of the planet's Chenin Blanc comes from South Africa, so that should tell you something. So with that said, and to close out, and to get ready to move on to our next presentation, which I haven't exactly figured out, here's a little shot of Crémant de Loire, a little bit of Chenin Blanc. I think I need some potato chips. Until next time, my friends, stay safe, happy spring, and we'll see you again soon.